Thanks again, Dixon, for being a fantastic host for dinner last night for today, herding cats, and bringing us all together. I have too many things to tell you, primarily because I like to talk. I love being on the microphone and the platform, but you know, we'll do as much as I can, and then we'll hang out and spend time with you. But are there any engineers in the room? Okay, keep your hands up. I'm an engineer too. So watch out for these people. They tend to be the smartest people in the room. And they're gonna want to trip at me with any questions. So, you know, be careful. Don't turn your back on them. So I'm gonna talk to you about, real quick, about who we are, CMG. So my background is I'm a software guy that became a computer guy, that became a telco guy, that became an energy guy. So this is my fourth industry, and I've lived the digitalization and transformation of the first three, which are really driving the digitalization and transformation of all the others. So when I came to energy, I was really excited about, you know, I'm from Austin, Texas. Anybody been to Austin, Texas? Okay, hook 'em, there you go. South by Southwest, Austin city limits, anybody? Guns N' Roses this year in October, come on over. CMG is a consulting firm, boutique. We are management consulting. We focus on strategic planning, primarily on the growth and transformation of companies. So if you're a buyer or a user of technology in the smart cities, smart buildings, smart utility, smart grid space, you would hire us and we would help you, you know, double your top line, increase your customer satisfaction and experiences, deploy your technology, sort of, you know, transform yourself. That's what we do for a living. So some of our customers include companies like AT&T, Siemens, Verizon, Intel, and then in terms of cities, about 15 cities, including Dubai. So if you've been to Dubai lately, we designed the grid in Dubai in 2014, and everything that they're doing with electrification, we came up with for the officials there. And then we have big customers like National Grid and Sempra and Southern California Edison and E.ON and NG, if you know NG, former GDF Suez. Those are all customers of ours. So we also work with smaller, medium-sized companies and local governments. And then in terms of, you see a list of the names of where the team comes from, so really the who's who of a lot of transformation consulting firms and technology companies. And one of the claim to fame of what we have done is we have created a library of use cases, 500 use cases on the sort of digitization and digitalization of smart cities, smart buildings, smart utilities, smart grid. And so we have won multiple awards over the years. I'm an avid geek who was lucky enough to work for Bill Gates right out of college. And I've published 35 books in topics like power engineering, telecom, IoT, and building technologies. And I happen to also teach at Texas State University telecommunications and energy courses. So the energy industry, and we have heard about sort of some of the interesting acceleration and transformation that is being done at the macro and the state level in California. But this energy industry that we're living today, and really all the large vertical industries, construction, water, transportation, and so on, are being bombarded and attacked by a great number of trends, right? So from things like, you know, distributed energy and renewables to things like blockchain and so on, and cloud and mobility and so on. But the most important thing about all these trends that are impacting where we're heading is these four trends. And these four trends as the building block, when you think about, anybody familiar with Maslow's pyramid of needs, right? So the one thing, if you read my book, on you know, in the first chapter, we kind of took Maslow's pyramid of hierarchy of needs, and we added at the very bottom electricity, because in the modern world without electricity, nothing would happen. You couldn't even, you know, find food or have food or anything, especially my kids that, you know, depend on the pizza on the refrigerator. So let alone, take away the Wi-Fi and the phone from them for 10 minutes. They go crazy, right? So these four trends, decarbonization, decentralization, see, we both know what that means, right? From centralized anything to distributed anything, is decarbonization, get rid of the CO2. But the last two are really the transformation that we help folks go through. Digitization and digitalization are not the same thing. So digitization is about how you take information technology, solutions, best practices, technologies, and convert an analog business into a ones and zeros digital thing. So XBRL is a digitization tool. Digitalization is what happens to that business after I've embarked in the transformation of digitizing my business. What happens to the business process? What happens to the workforce? What happens to the roles and responsibilities? What happens to the relationships? What happens to the business model? Right? And if there is no improvement in collapsing of time, in creation of value, why do it? Right? So the goal here is not just to digitize because it's cool. The goal here is to digitize to create more value, to lower cost, to improve the speed, to reduce friction, reduce risk. So when you think about the benefits of digitization, if you don't understand the use cases, the business models, the technologies, the best practices, how you get the return on investment, and what does that apply to on each element of the use case to the supply chain, from the consumer all the way through the middle players, all the way to the creators of the technology that you're consuming. The benefits lie all the way through, right? So let's take, for example, energy storage. You're familiar with the energy storage? It's the holy grail of energy. We are just witnessing the transformation in the injection of energy storage into our world, right? So for example, let's fantasize for a moment, and then I'll drive fast through all the slides. But let's fantasize for a moment. What would happen if all the 270 million cars in the United States were electric? What would happen if they had a 100 kilowatt hour battery each? So how many of you know our total capacity production as a country on creating energy in gigawatts? How many? Anybody know the number? Anybody know the number? Throw a number. Anybody? We're among friends.
It's a gigawatt.
Well, how many gigawatts?
What's a gigawatt?
15? How many?
It's a couple terawatts.
A couple of terawatts, yeah.
So it's 1,100 gigawatts, our production capacity as a country. Generation units all over, right? So if you do the math of the 270,000 registered cars, and you put it like a 100 kilowatt hour battery in them, that will give you 27,000 gigawatts of storage capacity. Think about that for a moment. Right? That means more than 24 hours of that production could be stored in all those cars. We love buying cars. We're going to keep buying cars. When they become electric, we'll just buy them. They're beautiful. I put a down payment for a Rivian. Do you know what a Rivian is? It's a pickup truck that is going to come out. It has a 400-mile range. It's made in Plymouth, Michigan. It's a beautiful car, right? So think about that for a moment. So will we need more generation after all the cars are electric? The answer would be no, right? Because we could store all the energy, all of us, and instead of charging electricity from the grid, just for charge like you do today, you would do it differently. You go to work, you charge your car at work, then you come home and run the house from the car, right? Kind of thing. You get that? And am I going too fast? too far? Okay, so this graph of what the smart utility of the future is what PG&E and others are trying to do, right? So we're going from a one-way power flow centralized generation of any kind. Doesn't matter if the elections are green or not green. The fact that we are engaged in this decarbonization thing happens to be one small element of the transformation. It's not the main element of the transformation. It's sort of like if you live the transformation of wireless and in telephones and in computers, right? The reason you started using computers and cell phones a long time ago is not how you use this mainframe anymore. This is a mainframe. Do you know that? Right? The computing power in this cell phone is 2 times bigger than all the mainframes that provided the computing power to take us to the moon. It's right here for $600. Right? NASA spent $35 million back then. Right? $600. This is what's called innovation. Right? And that acceleration of that innovation is what we are trying to figure out, how do we consume it? So this utility of the future that we could spend 10 hours discussing the model of this two-way power flow, two-way data flow, really drives the need for new buildings. So how many buildings in the United States? Does anybody know? I'm sorry. Pick a number. Buildings. 28 million buildings. Right? So, if every building, instead of being an analog passive asset that consumes energy and doesn't do anything, was actually retrofitted with thermal solar and energy efficiency and solar rooftops and fuel cells and what have you, and any kind of technology you would like, would we need more power plants? We wouldn't. Right? If you think about coupling the buildings that way and using the electric vehicles as storage running around, I mean, how often do you drive your car? Do you guys commute a lot? 6 hours a day, 4 hours a day? Right? Okay, let's say it's just 2 hours a day, right? That means your car is parked 22 hours a day. What does the car do in 22 hours a day? Well, this is why Uber got birthed, right? And the gig economy is about the fact that every asset that we own is subutilized. The return on asset on anything that we own is less than 30%. Just think about it for a moment. Think about everything you own. How often do you use it? Begin with that cabin in Michigan. You go once a year, right? Whatever it is, right? So that's what the gig economy is about. And so how do we bring all that, and what are the building blocks that enable this to happen, right? So same with the smart home of the future. Anybody has a smart home? You control everything from your phone. You show off at the bar. You're in London and you're turning things light off in your neighborhood. Everybody's going, what's going on? The Carvallos are going crazy. And I'm in London showing off my friends. I can turn off the lights, turn on the systems, open the garage door. So these homes of the future have all these capabilities too, right? Self-generation, connectivity, so on and so forth. And then obviously as you take the buildings and the homes and make them that way, you enable the smart city of the future, right? Which is not only about infrastructure and you and I, where we work, live, and play, but it's also about the services and the parks and public safety and all the other things, right? So CMG does an annual conference. You're invited to come next year. It's going to be in May 19th and 20th in San Marcos. So we had our inaugural conference this year. Dixon happened to get invited to come, and he was part of a panel. And we, in that panel, anybody saw the white paper? He sent an email with the white paper and the video. You can see the video, you can read the white paper. So I thought I would share and extract some of the things that we came up with. So we had, John Wellenhoff, former FERC chairman, and we had Dixon, and we have a gentleman from Signature Bank, and we had folks from Engie and Sempra on the panel. And it was moderated by Tom Rose, who is a partner at CMG and the former head of regulatory affairs at THU, now known, or used to be known as Energy Future Holdings after deregulation, if you know what that is. But anyway, so this whole, the 4 Ds, as I call them, right? 4 Ds, remember the 4 Ds? So these 4 Ds are impacting everything we do. Energy just happens to be the first big transformational, old-fashioned business that is going through it. But this is happening as we speak in water, in transportation, in construction, on and on and on, right? You would argue that, airlines, fintech, all the retail, all these other industries are way down the road on that transformation, right? farther ahead. These bigger industries are not, right? And so there's a phenomenal need and an incredible opportunity to figure out how we do this right so that we don't have to reinvent what is being invented as black thread everywhere, starting in California, and is now being leveraged because somebody else wants to invent it again their own way. And what a waste of time that is, right? So if someone is working right, let's just copy it, right? Let's figure it out, how do we leverage it? But, we were talking about small businesses. Do you all know how many small businesses in the United States registered? Anybody?
10 million, 42 million.
28 million. Right? So it's growing. It was 22 million, I think, a couple of years ago. The number is growing very fast. And as you know, a lot of those businesses go out of business like that, right? So they come and go, and it's it's one people, two people. So so the challenge is how do we bring that crowd in that small business is the guy who mows my lawn, who shows up at my house to get paid, and he pulls out his phone with a square thing, and I swipe my credit card, and he's proud of himself that he's now in this new world, right, of connectivity and digitization, right? And so how do we not leave behind a significant sector of the population, just in the US, that lives in what I would call not our normal rules of engagement? They live in a cash economy, they get paid every Friday. If they don't pay their bills by Friday at 3 o'clock, the money will be wasted gambling and drinking at the end of the evening, and then they go again at it, right? 7% to 6, so from 5% to 7% of our population lives in this, call it dark economy, right? It's a parallel world that, it is influenced by all kinds of things, all the bad actors you can think about, right? But that economy is real. 5% of the population is a significant number of people. And they're actually generating good money. They're just not part of our economy. They live in a different economy. They consume at the grocery store with cash and other things, but they're not part of our ecosystem of how we go digitize. So if we decided tomorrow morning to digitize, we would leave a lot of people behind. Now the question is, how do we not leave those people behind and digitize? You see what I'm saying? I mean, it's the same challenge that we have with healthcare or anything else, right? There's a significant number of us being all humankind in the United States, that it's not participating in where we are at. And so the question for us, the elites, the ones that went to college and drive the boat, how do we keep everybody on the boat, right? So one of the things is the constructs in energy. You would argue with me that while we are a capitalist country and all about markets, that the miracle of the energy transformation of taking 3,300 utilities to deliver power everywhere in the United States. And have you been everywhere in the United States? Anybody travel everywhere? So have you been everywhere in Brazil and tried to get power and stay in the Amazon? Not possible. I grew up in Brazil, right? So in this country, you drive everywhere, literally everywhere. And there is a power outlet somewhere that you can connect, right? Unlike any other country in the world. Literally unlike any other country in the world. Go to Europe, you won't find it, right? So that capability, that brilliance, was built on a monopoly business model created by Samuel Insull, who worked for Edison, but he founded Commonwealth Edison, right? So that business model of give me the monopoly of your city, I'm gonna light up your city, you buy from me, I'll do multiple rates, I'll run my generator 24/7, and everybody will get lighting and a little bit of energy to do a little refrigerator and listen to your radio, and we're all good, right? That business model got us here. So think about it, that is digitalization of what was available after the Tesla, Westinghouse, and Edison inventions, right? But that model is now changing dramatically, right? So in order not to leave anybody behind, and the notion that if nobody's paying for some of these things, there is no activity, And data interoperability is the key to all this, because data is the new gold, if you think about it, is that all the things that we're doing need to be built on open standards, right? And we require interoperability, meaning all the players need to agree to talk and exchange information. It doesn't mean that they need to lose their competitive advantage. How many of you have seen a thumb drive or own a thumb drive? It's not thumb drive, USB thumb drive. Okay, depending on who you buy that thumb drive from, the internals of how that thumb drive is built, the database, the storage, the capacity of what it does is proprietary to each vendor. But the communication mechanism is just a little, dongle thing that comes out. It's standard, so that the data can flow from one machine to the thumb drive, regardless of who makes it. Now, you may not be able to read the thumb drive if you are, if the thumb drive was formatted for Windows and you have an Apple Mac or whatever it is, but it can be seen, it can be read, it can be connected, right? You would need to reformat the thing and whatever you need to do to change it. But the point is, that's what we're missing. And this is where XBRL and APIs come in. We need to really get serious, and this requires top-down leadership. This is not going to be done by the 22 million businesses or the dark economy that runs in this country. It's going to be done by us, top-down. We need to get serious about driving this so that we can have transparency, so that we can build end-to-end interoperable integration, and that we can then deploy all these tools, from green button to orange button to everything else in between, and more importantly, make sure that they're secure, right? So one of the things that needs to be really seriously looked at how we do this is blockchain. Okay, are we using blockchain yet, anybody?
Close.
Okay, we're close, right? So the thing about blockchain is that blockchain delivers on the promise of two things that are paramount to what we're discussing. The reason that dark economy is there is because, that's me, time's up. The reason that is there is because we don't have trust on each other, right? We don't trust people, don't have the right data, we don't know if they have a banking history, so on. How do we overcome this, right? And the fact that, in order for me to get engaged, I need to make a certain amount of money, my hour is worth X, so the little guy is not gonna pay me that X. So again, we have this chicken and egg issue, right? So we need to really remove the humans out of the equation and to trust the machines, and we need to leapfrog how we've been doing things. And I'm challenging you on this right now. Being an engineer and a high-tech guy that started working for Bill Gates in the early days. We need to lead, we need to design systems that don't involve humans. And I'm serious about this, because we're not gonna get there otherwise. It's not possible to scale to the billions of people worldwide that need this service if we continue to do it the way we do it in the financial sector. It'll never happen. So you will be replaced by somebody else. Hence why people like Facebook are trying to do what they're doing. Are you familiar with what Facebook is trying to do with Libra? It's a cryptocurrency in Facebook that if it happens, and it starts just with buying little things in Facebook, it will actually displace all of you as a sector, because everything, people will buy their own new policy insurance for company Timbuktu from Facebook at 1/3 of the cost of the insurance that they buy from you. This is coming, unless the industry transforms and accelerates and leapfrogs what it's doing today. And I'm serious about this. It's going to happen. So again, how do we leverage blockchain to do all these things? Last but not least, this transformation of centralized control of information by the big banks or the big insurance agencies versus decentralized systems, right? And that's what's going on, right? The gig economy will rule the day. Consumers are becoming prosumers, if you know what that means. I've been talking that term in the third wave. It is the notion that a consumer that used to buy something and not know anything about this becomes actually a seller of this thing. So energy on the rooftop or account, insurance services or what have you. The consumer of the future through the internet is learning more and knows more than you and I that went to college and have 4 degrees. Because you can read anything on the internet and get, if you're like Tony Stark, you can master, nuclear fusion in one evening just by reading all the volumes, right? So you don't need to get a degree to know all this stuff anymore. And so from the utility point of view, we need to transform ourselves from what is called volumetric companies to maybe energy service providers, to maybe technology providers, right? And then you know, the customer and the business model is really what's going to drive all this transformation, right? So last but not least, and you should read the white paper, you should watch the video, right? Leadership requires to take action. Decarbonization and decentralization are going to accelerate. So again, think about, you know, all the build-outs that are happening in the US, and John can tell you, not a single nuclear plant, not a single coal plant, not a single gas plant. In fact, it's a world thing. Everything that is being built is renewable energy, period. And energy storage is about to unleash. So now leave you with this. FERC has issued 3 orders to change the energy system forever. Order 1000 is all about planning, integrated planning like never before. Order 745 is about demand response, meaning load, use, right? This demand side of the grid being part of the equation of the balance of the grid. No longer supply-centric, but demand-centric, right? That's what Order 745 is, forcing demand response onto the grid as a way of running the balance of the 60 hertz. You're familiar with the fact that we run a 60 hertz grid in the United States. So in Europe is a 50 hertz grid. If you were to happen to be in Japan after World War II, half the country's 50, half the country's 60, you know why, right? So, so the last thing about that is Order 841. You need to look at Order 841. So energy storage, the holy grail of energy, the way that the commodity will become fungible and you will be able to use at the Chicago Mercantile Exchange by futures on electrons produced by PG&E 5 years from now. It's with energy storage when they put it everywhere, right? And so, or 841 declares that any energy storage unit on the customer side of the meter of any size plays into the wholesale market traded real-time market. Do you hear that? Any unit. Now, FERC when FERC issues an order, it gives the market 365 days to digest the order and prepare a plan and come back. So right now, as we speak, all the RTOs and ISOs, regional transmission owners, and independent system operators like Cal ISO and others, are about to deliver to FERC how in the world they're going to do this. But 2 years from now, this will be happening, and the wild, wild west will emerge in energy. And every one of those cars with a battery will be a player in the wholesale market real time. Thank you for your patience.